Today's video, I'm going to be testing out a brand new white paint which I've never had before, and this is a mixture of watercolour and white gouache made by ShinHan Pass Colour Design. So I'm going to give it a try, something completely different for me, and compare this to the white watercolour paint I normally use for my video tutorials. Let's give it a try, shall we? Hi, my name is Paul Hopkinson and I'm a professional wildlife watercolour artist, and I teach online through my website. Have a look in the description down below for the link, and also of course here on YouTube. Now there are many different watercolour whites on the market, and not just watercolour white, there's also white gouache as well. So have a look around the different suppliers that you can find, but what you're looking for is something which is opaque in nature, to be able to cover anything that you want to put on, for like white highlights, really bright white highlights. But however, some of the watercolours that you find, or watercolour whites you find, tend to have like a yellow tint, and also they're not always that opaque, even though they class them as being opaque, I've found. However, there's a brand new one on the market, which I'm going to test with you today. And this one is a mixture between, well, watercolour and gouache. So I wonder how that works. I've not tried it, not even opened it up yet. So this is the first time. But someone's been painting for 40 years, and it's a brand new paint I thought I'll give it a blast with today. Okay, let's give it a try and see what it works like compared to all the other ones I've got here. Right, let's give it a go. Now, as I mentioned, this is really new stuff for me. I've never ever even seen it until recently. So I'm going to give it a try and just open it up. So okay, so a completely plastic tube compared to when we got something like this one here for Sennelier. As you can see there, and that's a metal tube with obviously a metal kind of top there, not the cap is plastic, and a lot of the other ones I've got are the same, made out of kind of a metal of some form within them. But what I want to do is try this one out and see where it goes. I'm going to put a little bit, there's a lot of water in there, look. Put that down there a minute. Quite a lot of water within the top of the watercolour white, but you tend to find that when you first start off with a brand new colour, they get a lot of kind of gel within it. It's like a binder which is within the top of the tube, you find. So in this case, what I'm going to do, put the top back on, and we'll try that as it is, because that's quite watery actually, compared to the one I normally use, which is this one here. Look how kind of thick this is there, really, really thick stuff. But this one, as you can see, is actually quite watery, and I've put quite a lot in there really, only because of that kind of binder, whatever's in there with it, right at the very top. So what I'm going to do is test this out first of all and try it on some scrap watercolour paper and see how that goes before I go to my kind of grasshopper I'm working on at the moment. And you can see actually it's quite bright, isn't it? I've got a lot on the brush though. Let's just take most of that off. I'm going to add in a little bit on there. So I'm going to load it, roll it, pull away. I'm going to give it a tap on some kitchen roll so there's not a lot of paint on it, so I can have a finer tip, and then apply that and see how fine that goes. Okay, well so far that's really bright, because what normally happens with watercolour white is that it will dry paler. It depends on the consistency of the white, of course. The creamier the whiter it will dry. With this particular one, looking at it, what if I water it down out of interest? Let's just steal a little bit out of there, pop it in the other side, and then have a little bit of water in there. There you go. So it's very, very watery, which it is. Grab some of that, look. You can see we've got so much of the stuff. Okay. Which is that there. Now, I have tested all those other whites out as well, by the way. A lot of those whites. I think I've done them all, actually. So if you have a look on the link below, you'll find my testing video as well. Wait till you've seen this one first, alright? No, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll pop a little link in the top right hand corner for you as well. Okay, so let's give that one a try. So this is a watery version of it now. So I'll pop it down here in the darker area. And I want to see if this dries paler, because watercolour white dries paler normally. So give it a chance to dry. Now while that's drying, I'm going to switch to my normal watercolour white, which is this one here, look. Okay, so that one there. Load it. Nice and creamy, look. Nice and creamy. Load it up, roll it, and pull away. I'll do the same again, a little bit further down. So this is my normal SAA watercolour white. which as I mentioned I will be changing. And if this gouache one, or watercolour cum gouache, or gouache, depends how you pronounce it, works really well, I will be switching to that, you know. So really well. Now this is really creamy, the watercolour white. Now if I just use a watery version of that instead, so I'm going to compare the two, look, on this very small example. Before I go to my painting, I know, don't want to ruin it, do we? And we'll try that one as a watery version and see how that dries. You see, the watery version is definitely paler. Straight away I can see that. I know it's on a different coloured background as it works down the grade, which I've done this kind of scale for this, as you can see, the grasshopper there. But it's a little bit thinner, a little bit waterier, compared to the watery version of this. Make it even more watery, look. Just try that. Very watery. I'm going to try that within the dark area, run out of space now. Well, that's not too bad actually when it's watery. Probably compared to the other one, it's not bad going at all. However, the thicker version, just grab that one again, so really thick, so probably creamy. To be honest with you, straight from the tube it's not bad compared to the one I normally use. So from the tube itself, that's too thick on the brush, it seems to apply really well. So you know what, I'm going to give this a try on this painting because I spent hours doing this painting, so you can imagine that when you're working on a painting of this detail, you want to make sure that what you're going to use works well. Alright, you ready? Should we give it a try? Okay, fingers crossed. Let's try it. Make sure the brush is nicely washed out first though, because you find any white paint, normally for me anyway, tends to clog up the bristles and kind of soaks up into the metal ferrule there. And if that happens, what will happen then, so your bristles will just simply go like that. You don't want that to happen, okay? So lower the brush. Let's do that first of all. To a creamy consistency. Load it, roll it, pull away, give it a tap again. Try that. Okay, deep breath. Here we go. And I'm going to start by just adding a little bit of white down here. So I'm looking at my reference photograph. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just pop a little bit in the corner there for you so you can see it. So you can see what I'm working on. This is a video tutorial which I'm doing for my members on my website, by the way. If you're interested, I'll pop the link again down below for you. If you fancy having a go at painting this lovely meadow grasshopper, then you can see the techniques I use to kind of work on something like this. So let's just carry on down there. Now I don't need too much of this because it's going to take away all that lovely colour on the painting. So just where it's needed, comparing to that reference photograph, and so far, you know, I'm pretty well impressed. It's not bad going, is it? It really isn't bad going. I'll just zoom in a little bit for you, and then load that brush. Pull away. Remember, I want it creamy, so no water this time, straight from the tube there, straight from that block of colour. And I don't want too much on the brush really, because I need to have a fine line. And I can just very lightly, barely touching 2 hairs in air, literally, hardly anything, touching that paper there, and all the way down to the bottom of the wing. So far, you know, I'm pretty much impressed with this. I think it's working really well. For a combination of watercolour and gouache, it does stand out really well. And we know we can water it down. There's one thing I haven't tested yet though, which I need to test, and that's overlaying it with a little bit of colour. So I'll do that next. Now the good thing about this one as well is that it's dried really bright white, and that's exactly what I'm looking for this sort of white paint. And we also know that we can tone it down, we can water it down a little bit as well. So let's get back to our little test sheet there. Now it's nice and dry, by the way. So wash and brush out, and I'm going to get some of my green I've been using. Should we go for a brighter green? Let's go for something like this one here, look. Okay, nice and bright, as you can see. So grab some of that. Nice and probably watery really, don't need too thick. And we'll try overlaying that over the white gouache. Like that. And a little bit on there. So that's covering quite well on this really bright white. So we're going to get some more. And we'll try on the thinner stuff, which is this down here, isn't it? And I want to see what happens if I go over it more than once as well. Because I know with watercolour white, it just blurs away. It really does. So let's go over it again and again and again. And you can see it's now moving. And that's because it's obviously water-based. That's all it simply is, because it is water-based. So, you know, it will move obviously. But that applies also to watercolour white as well. So I'll just show you what I mean. So the watercolour white one, which is this one down here, a little bit more. And you can see that stays over the top quite well. I'm going over it twice. That's as much as I dare do that. Because I know that if we keep going over it, let's go over it again, it will start to blur. It's not a permanent colour, is it? None of the whites seem to be permanent. They're not going to stay on the paper and not move. It's not acrylic paint, it's watercolour at the end of the day. And that's what you have to remember. So, to be honest with you, I'm quite impressed by this white, you know, I really am. But one little pointer for you as well, bear this in mind that if you're entering galleries, exhibitions or anything like that, you need to find out if people make classes as not pure watercolour. So if you're entering a watercolour painting within an exhibition, just double check those rules and regulations before you do so. So that gives you some ideas what this one's like, and I'm really impressed with this actually. This may just be the one I'll be using in the very near future. Now, if you fancy practicing using white paint as well, have a look at my video on how to paint a cat's eye and see the way that I apply the white paint and also how to mix the correct consistency. Now if you're interested in looking at the video on me testing all the other white paints, I'm going to pick them all up, all this lot here, look, then have a look at that video to the right hand side there and let me know what you think. I'll see you there.